Okay, well, hi everyone. My name is Andrew Novak. I'm a criminology professor at George Mason University. I'm taking students to Germany for 2 weeks in January to discuss issues related to post-World War II restitution and accountability, and then the development of a new, basically European and global order. So some of the things we're going to be doing, we're going to start the program, well, it's going to be sort of chronological in a thematic sense as well, because we're going to be starting in Munich with looking at the rise of the Nazi Party. And then we're going to visit Nuremberg to discuss the trials, and then we're going to end up in Berlin to discuss partition and then reunification, and then the creation of a new European order and European integration and the European Union. So covers a lot of ground. It gets history, art history, global affairs, integrative studies, and criminology credit. In the past, I've also gotten government and politics credit, which might be possible again. So the program starts on January 3rd. In Munich. And so I'll be meeting the students who arrive then. We have quite an agenda in Munich. So we're going to be doing things like, we'll get a walking tour of the city, but we'll also be visiting some art museums to discuss looted artwork and the problem of restitution of artwork. And then we've got some day trips planned, both in Bavaria, in the Alps, and then around Berlin to go to Potsdam and some other places. So this is the first time the trip is going to Berlin. So I've taken students on this program 3 times, and each time we've done a slightly different itinerary. But I think Munich, Nuremberg, and Berlin will go very well together. Berlin's a very fun city. It's a big city. And it's an interesting city. So I look forward to that. The hotels are quite nice. They're like 4-star hotels with a very fancy breakfast, which I think is one of the highlights of the program, in my opinion. It will be cold, and some things are weather dependent to some degree, especially given that there can be unpredictable weather up in the mountains in Bavaria, for instance. So packing warm is essential, although we're going to be spending a lot of time inside. We're not going to be like hiking through the wilderness or anything. It's city. These are cities. The study abroad office will tell you much more about money and passports and the rules of the program. Germany uses the euro. You do need a passport. You do not need a visa to enter the European Union. But you may need a visa if you're not a U.S. citizen or you're not a U.S. passport holder. So check on those requirements. The assignments for the course. So most of the assignments are participation based. That a large portion of your grade is going to be on-time attendance and participation in the activities that we do, but there'll also be a pre-departure quiz with some readings. Those readings aren't too bad. One's on the Nuremberg trials, one's on looted artwork and the problem of restitution. And there might be a few more. And you also have a museum scavenger hunt to do. So we'll be visiting a bunch of different art museums to look at Nazi-affected artwork. So that can be art that was taken from Jewish art collectors and sold on the black market. It can be art that the Nazis themselves stole from museums in occupied countries and the monuments men returned after the war. So there's lots of different ways in which to make that art history connection, because of course the Nazis were very, it was part of the Nazi propaganda system was about controlling artwork for consumption. And that kind of thing. And then there'll be a final paper for the course when you get home. So that's the basic assignment structure. Now the schedule. So in Munich, we're going to be looking at the rise of the Nazi Party and visiting, for instance, the National Socialist Documentation Center, which lays this out. Plus, we've got some art museums on the agenda. We'll visit Dachau concentration camp outside of Munich. And then when we get to Nuremberg, we'll visit both the Nazi Party rally grounds where Hitler held the really big rallies in the 30s, as well as the Nuremberg Trials Memorial. So we'll be visiting the courtroom itself and the permanent exhibition. From Nuremberg, we'll go to Berlin, where we have a walking tour. We also have a day trip to Wannsee and to Potsdam. And then in Berlin, we'll see both the Holocaust Museum there and the museum on Soviet domination of East Germany. So those visiting, sites like Checkpoint Charlie, that kind of thing, and then of course the wall. So, and then we'll end up the last day talking about the European Union and the creation of a new European order. So the trip ends on Saturday, January 15th in Berlin. Now that is just my overview. I'm happy to hear any questions if anyone has any.
And I'll also link the application and the brochure in the chat. So that is available.
So having done the trip a few times, we're dealing with a Eurozone country, so it's really easy and standardized, and Germany is a very easy country. There's going to be a lot of, especially the places we're visiting, a lot of English speakers, in Bavaria especially, because it was part of the American zone of occupation. So I've never had a language barrier problem. I find smartphones to be super useful. I use Google Maps all the time to get around, even when I don't have Wi-Fi access, although my Verizon account allows me to have a data plan internationally, so I find that is useful as well. There's also free time built into the schedule, so if people have specific things they want to see, there'll be at least 2 half days for people to have their own time. Germany uses the typical European Union 2-prong or the round prong electrical outlet. And so that's also useful to know. And I'll also say that transit around Germany is quite easy because they have a very good system of mass transit. So sometimes we'll have a charter bus taking us around. Sometimes we'll be taking the light rail or the heavy rail, I suppose. But it's all very efficient, actually, and I haven't had any serious problems on prior trips. So, and of course, Berlin has a new airport, and Munich is also a major hub, so they're easy cities to get to and out of. So, yeah. I did have an Instagram account, GMU Crim 485 on Instagram, and on that Instagram account, students on prior trips posted photos of things they saw. That's actually part of the grade. And every day a different student will take over the class Instagram account. So if you want to see photos from prior trips, it's on Instagram, GMU Crim 485. And you can see prior photos, for instance, of the courtroom in Nuremberg, or the Nazi Party rally grounds and that kind of thing. That's all I have. I can't really think of anything else.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Andrew. Rachel, did you have any questions?
I guess I kind of had one question, and it's kind of like, I know you guys probably won't have the answer to it exactly, but like, what would happen as far as like COVID wise with like if like we weren't able to go, and just like stuff like that, with just like kind of like the uncertainty with like if we will be able to go, and like if we do go, how will we be different because of COVID, just like stuff like that.
Has the
Yeah.
travel agent given any guidance?
So we have some guidance from the provider that we're using, that they have specific COVID protocols that they want us and students on using their services to abide by. Plus, we're going to be abiding by all of Germany's requirements. We're working right now on our petition to the University Travel Advisory Committee to review the travel to make sure that we can go, but we shouldn't have an answer probably by I think October 15th is when we needed to let them know by. So we should know around October 15th the status of the program.
And I assume that Germany requires masking and stuff, right? My understanding is they're a little bit better off than we are right now, but I assume that we'll have to like mask on the train and everything.
Yes, from what I can see, masking is required pretty heavily in public areas.
Okay, and we haven't heard that anything we're going to be visiting is not open. Is that what you said?
Not as of right now. They
Okay.
haven't given me any indication that it would be.
And then, so what would happen if, like, let's say like the trip did get canceled, what would happen with like the finances? Because I know we have a $200 non-refundable deposit. But I guess what would happen like in that case, like if we do submit, an application and get accepted, but then we don't end up going on the trip or something happens?
So if we cancel the program and your application is still active, you would get a refund of your application deposit.
And I suppose that you have a protocol for if I get sick. I'm not planning on getting sick. I am vaccinated. But I'll be good for the month of December. I promise, but there's all sorts of, there are some risks involved, but if you cancel the program, then it's a refund.
Right.
Okay. And the study abroad office probably has new rules about what happens if people get ill on the trip, right? Like that's something.
Yeah, we'll talk about that during pre-departure orientation as well.
Okay. Okay. Well, it is a fun program, and I personally think that I am also fun. So, and these are cities I know quite well after being there 3 or 4 times. So, and it's also like, I mean, we're in one of the most developed countries in the Western world, and it has a very strong. If you're going to go anywhere during COVID, it's not a bad place to go. And it sounds. That sounds kind of crude, or like kind of but it's true. Like Germany is very highly developed transit and hospital system and universal health care and this type of thing. So the risks are quite minimal probably as far as people getting sick on the program and needing attention or having to come home early, that kind of thing.